Hello, Kairos people. I apologise in advance. I sound very poorly because I am. This is Becky, if people don't know. She is one of my many sisters.
Yep.
We thought we'd start with, like, religions and how long we've been those religions.
Just a little introduction bit. And I've been a Muslim for 11 years. I think about 11 years. And prior to that, I was Christian. I would say since birth, but I mean, depends on how you define actively.
I would say since birth, but it's more I was raised in a Christian context and then I never left it.
Yeah, but then I think you actively practiced from 16 onwards, probably.
Yes, probably.
Whereas before that was kind of passive.
And I've got to remember how old I am. How long would that be?
No, we'll just we can say from them. Whereas I think I was practicing Christian, actively practicing before I converted. And you live in England and I live in France.
Yep. So we'll try and
I've lived
talk about
here
those
for
differences.
just 1 year less than I've been a Muslim.
Oh,
10 years.
10 years. So
the majority of my journey as a Muslim
has been in the French context. Yes. So we'll ask about that too, because that's what was interesting. I think we should put into context, we're probably both liberal spectrums of our religions.
Yeah, yes.
So,
so our views should not be taken to envelope the views of absolutely every or even.
But I'd say also our similarities. We may have more of them because I think
but we have a similar viewpoint of the world. Yeah,
which isn't a surprise as we have grown up in the same household.
Yeah, but I think people. Well, I don't know because I don't know. I haven't experienced the Kairos. I'm so sorry. Kairos group, but I'm often surprised how little Christians know about Islam. I think in a lot of cases it's kind of like an other thing, and the idea of Allah and prophets is like a completely foreign, completely that's a different God. There's a different prophet.
I think that's true because I remember this is harking back. There was a MESOC quiz.
Oh wow! Back at uni,
and I remember I was the only person who knew anything about Muslims, and that was because of you. And I remember there were like a little bit of the quiz was on it, and I got all of it, and nobody else got anything right. But I think that kind of points out that I didn't know a lot, but I knew more.
Yeah,
than most
but that's
people.
it. I don't want to. If you already know a bit, then I don't want to be
beat you over the head with it.
Yeah, I thought there was a word I was looking for. Don't want to be patronising. That's the word. Patronising. But so I think we should just go over briefly.
Yes.
We don't need to go in depth.
I think most people know Christians, Jews, and Muslims. We're all Abrahamic religions. Yeah. So there's always an awful lot of overlap.
Lot of overlap. Yeah. Yeah, which kind of made it. This is leaping off a bit. That's why converting from one to the other, I think, actually is. Not that you have to do it, but it makes sense.
It makes sense.
It makes sense because you have you have a certain understanding.
You already have a lot of knowledge of that religion, even if you don't know.
It wasn't a completely foreign concept. No. Like if you read the Quran after you've read the Bible, or if you read the Torah, you would find a lot of similarities, a lot of
the same stories,
same characters.
Yeah. Just different names.
Different names that you say, oh, I recognise this guy, I recognise this story.
Yeah.
So I would say the core belief for me is very similar that there's God or Allah, but Allah is just the Arabic word for God.
Does it have any special significance? In Judaism, Yahweh is considered a very sacred name.
It is very sacred. And there is many names for Allah in Islam. There's over 99 names, which are all sacred. But each name is got a different meaning, but Allah is just the all-encompassing one, which is the Christians in Muslim countries. They don't have to be Muslim countries. In Arabic countries, also say Allah.
Yeah, that makes sense because that's just the word.
So it's not from a Muslim mindset. Islam is a continuity of Christianity. So for Muslims, it's not a different God. It's just a continuing of the same religion.
You just developed further.
That's what the belief is, yeah. I mean, of course, you can argue that that's not the case, but that's the Islamic viewpoint.
I think I don't want to get controversial. I think if we do it historically, it's kind of just Jews popped up, then Christians came from them, then Muslims come from them.
Yeah,
so it's
just to different areas,
religion, really. Yeah.
Anyway, so the main similarities, I would say, the majority of, I think all the prophets are the same. Only with the addition of that Muslims have Muhammad as the last prophet, and Christianity doesn't have Muhammad. But we have Jesus, who is the most important prophet following Muhammad.
After Muhammad.
But he's still the most important for Muslims to do with the Day of Judgment, etc. He's a key figure.
I remember I was surprised by that because, if people don't know, at one point in my life I did read the Quran and was going through it. And I remember being like, oh, he pops up a lot in this.
Yeah. So he's still... So I think sometimes when people think Muslims have a great respect for Jesus and for all prophets for that matter. And you even such that when you say their names normally, which I find really hard not to do, you should say peace be upon them, following their name, because it's like you're talking about someone who's sacred, so you should be treating their name with respect.
That's how I'm just going to ask you random questions now. Is Mary sacred?
Yes.
Okay, interesting. I just wondering.
So she's not a prophet, but she was obviously.
Yes.
Because of the virgin birth, which is also in Islam, it's also a virgin birth.
All the same.
She is, very, very.
Yeah, I don't want to just pick up random Bible characters now. I just have a lot of people. I'm like, I wonder if but they probably all are. Probably don't have to ask.
Just grill me now. Who's this? They're the same. They just have different names, which reflects so. Mary is Mariam, Jesus is Isa.
I think that's probably more what the names would have sounded like. I don't think many people were called Joseph.
It would be interesting to know the original Aramaic to see what their names were. I don't know. But anyway, I digress. Where were we? So there's a lot of similarities, and I think a lot of the core values are similar. But there isn't so much. I suppose because I would say that we have the 5 pillars, which is not like Christianity. I suppose you have the 10 Commandments.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, you're right.
And there's no obligatory pilgrimage for Christians.
Nope.
Whereas for us,
we don't have to go anywhere.
I say obligatory under certain conditions. It's not obligatory, but it is a main goal. You should try and aim to do that in your lifetime. If you have the resources to do it, you should aim to do it. But I suppose it's interesting because I remember, when I was at university in Germany, my thesis was on the difference in Moses in the Bible and in the Quran. So I remember doing really heavily those stories, but actually they're very, very almost
interchangeable.
Yeah. There was no major difference. The major difference I would say is actually in Islam we give an extra miracle to Jesus. Is that we say he could speak from birth, which in Christianity they don't say.
No, I've never heard that.
Because in the Quran it says, when Mary went back, people asked her, they were judgmental of her because they said, where is this baby and blah, 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 and you've only just married Joseph. And there was this idea that, something isn't, quite kosher. And it's the baby then that spoke and defended his mother in Islam. And that says, I'm from Allah, I'm from God.
Oh, how interesting.
Yeah. You see, that's the main... I remember when I reread the story, that's the main difference.
Yes, I never recall that in the... I was going to say original version. Who knows?
Well, no, you can definitely say the Bible predates the Quran. So.
Yeah, but we've chopped and changed a lot of it.
Well, some version of the Bible predates.
Yes, true.
Anyway, again, shall we try and get back to the point? Yes, there's a lot of really similar things, and I think most Christians would be surprised how much Jesus
features in it.
Yeah.
What is the key difference then, do you think?
Is that Muslims are fundamentally against the idea that Jesus is God.
Oh, yes.
That's the massive... I know there's a lot of arguments about this. When I see Muslims and Christians meet, it's always very much on this subject, you have a partner with God, and in Islam it's there's only one God, he is indivisible. And that's, that's just the theology between the two religions is different, is that there's a Holy Trinity in Christianity, and in Islam that is not a concept, it is just God. That's it.
Probably that simple, isn't it?
Yeah, simple. But I suppose in Christianity, it kind of makes sense. Well, the Holy Spirit is the thing that comes down, and
yeah, that's true.
How Mary ends up pregnant with Jesus, and you can see how. I can see how some people it makes sense, but in most Muslims, that's their main.
Well, I think it is, even for a Christian, the Trinity is a very difficult concept in many ways.
Yeah.
Like, I remember...
They all say it's like the toothpaste.
Yes, I always remember the toothpaste. I thought that wasn't helpful at all.
Always the ministers used to say that. I used to think... I always imagine toothpaste.
Yes, I was going to mention that. Because I was going to say, they used to always go, oh, it's like that. And I'm like, well, it's not, is it? It's not like toothpaste.
Yeah, I guess it's in a very simplified, symbolic way. But anyway, that's the main thing for Muslims. That does not exist as a concept, and they think actually it's a very bad thing to associate something else with God
because he's so holy. Why would you?
Yeah, yes. He doesn't need kind of partners to do things. He's within his own power to do it.
Yes, I could go off on a tangent. I quite like it, but that's because I often think it links us with other religions who have multi-gods. And I always think, well, they're just different, to me, they're different elements
of the Holy Spirit.
Of a God that you're seeing in a different way. But I know that's jumping on a different thing that we do know to discuss.
Well, no, but I think it's just interesting that's a big...
Yeah, that's a line of being like, no, we couldn't believe in that.
Yeah, because I think for a lot of Muslims, I think it's the same way as well. A lot of Muslims aren't educated a lot about Christianity, except for the fact that we don't agree on that point.
Yes. They're like, we know what we don't agree on, but we forget what we
YouTube videos that really annoys me because they're just about that. And I'm like, well, you're never going to agree because this is a big fundamental difference. But the rest of the religion's very, very similar. And it's a shame to get hung up about something that... It's just two different theological views, and you can't meet in the middle because neither side is really going to sway on it.
Ooh, this was an interesting question, which isn't really what we were asked to do, but I thought it was fun. How did people around you react when you... I know you don't call it convert to you call it revert.
Yeah.
Reverted to
That's an
Islam.
Interesting fact, yes. So,
do you see the things
let's go on a tangent, yes, so you do, so...
this isn't a thing just to say.
Yeah, if you're Muslim, the literal meaning is to be in submission to God. So we believe everyone was born in submission to God, and as you grow, you're kind of raised out of it by society or whatever. And so if you then choose later to become Muslim, it's not that you're converting because you're reverting to your original state.
What you were.
Yeah, that's right. What was your question?
My question was, how did people react?
Badly. You didn't, but a lot of the family reacted poorly.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think that wasn't... I don't think that was... I think if they understood the religion, they wouldn't have reacted poorly.
Like you said, I think... Even me, I didn't mind, I think, because I'm quite open to everybody having their own opinions, but I didn't know much about Islam.
Yeah.
And I think only through you did I know more.
Yeah, and
then I was like, oh, well, that's kind of... Not the same, but it's very similar.
A lot of the family of people around me was like, oh, there's going to be some Muslim man in the background and you're going to change your whole life.
I think also a lot of people see it, we can discuss this, as being a very...
Misogynistic?
Yes, that's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
I was going to say, like, anti-women, misogynistic religion.
Yeah.
And therefore people are like, well, why would you pick that?
Yeah, exactly, yes, I completely get that. Or you're almost taking rights away from yourself.
Yes,
like you're choosing to put yourself in a situation where for them you have less rights or you have less freedoms. I think I'll tell you what really shocked me, the amount of people from because I wasn't in Messtock, I was CU. We were both. I was really shocked how many people sent me really nasty messages.
Yeah,
but not in person. This is what I wouldn't have minded if someone came up and was like, "Oh, it's interesting that you've done that."
Yeah, why did you change?
It was really kind of like.
And if people don't, this is why I then left the Christian Union and I joined the Methodist Church and the Methodist Society. But that was not even because I didn't even know much about the messages. It's just I had people hounding me asking about you, and I was like, well, it's none of my
it's not my journey.
It's not my thing to choose. I can't decide what religion anybody else is.
Yeah. I was really surprised because they're young people as well. That's what shocked me. There wasn't kind of a natural curiosity. It was more kind of just like
basically was talking to one of my friends, and they were like, well, I go to Messoc and they wouldn't care. And I was like, okay, bye. So that they'd lost two of us then.
It changed your life too, because that's where you met Elliot.
It is.
You see? Inadvertently. Anyway. So I would say on the whole poorly. And I didn't know many Muslims in England. No. Because I converted when I was in Germany.
And then you came back to Aberystwyth.
I went in Wales, but in the UK. And then...
And it's very rural.
And it was interesting because I'd gone from a different Muslim community as well, because in Germany it was a lot of Turkish Muslims, and then I went back and it was kind of a mixture of more...
You made friends with an Egyptian lady.
Yeah, I did.
Yes.
But she was the minority in ours. There was very few Arabic, Egyptian or Middle Eastern, but Arabic in general. It was mostly like Pakistani at Aberystwyth. And one Welsh lady who'd also converted.
Yes,
that was our community
I remember. Yeah.
But anyway, so you were saying how people reacted.
Yes.
Yeah, poorly. On the whole, poorly. The family came around once they saw that I was kind of the same person, I guess. I just didn't drink anymore.
Yeah. But then this always amuses me, because I don't really drink either. And people always like it's she's very strict, she doesn't drink. And I'm like, well, nor do I really. But
it was more kind of just dietary and...
Yeah, I just think people view it in a very different way. If you're a Muslim person, they don't drink because I'm Muslim. I think, that she just doesn't drink.
Yeah, and I think it's difficult when you cover, because you visibly are different.
Yes, that's true. Should we hop into that? That's not a question.
Yeah, we're gone.
But do you choose to wear... Do you call it veil?
What
would you refer to it as?
It is hijab, but I don't wear it, so it depends really on how you define how you wear it. Some people have different ideas of what modesty is. Mm-hmm. For me, it's not really about modesty. It's more about... Because people will say, well, why did you choose to do that? Yeah. And for me, I have a big problem, because I think a lot of extreme views in the Muslim community... think modesty equals invisibility. And it's like, for me, modesty is not what you wear, it's how you behave in the world.
Yeah, it makes sense.
But I think wearing something like that visibly makes me go, well, now I'm representing Muslims.
Yeah,
and now I'm going to hold myself to a certain
standard,
because how I behave reflects on my whole belief system, not just on me.
That makes sense.
So personally, that was more of the decision for me behind that. And modesty is part of the religion, but it's very much about kind of... Each person is going to have a different view of what modesty is.
Well, I'd say that's the same in Christian circles, really.
So some people will say
some people are very modest.
You shouldn't show your neck, for example. Some people say you can show lower arms. Some people say... It really depends on... And I'll be perfectly honest, the Quran is not particular on this. It's particular about being modest. It's not particular about... It doesn't say, women, you must wear this, this and this. It doesn't specify. So it's really open to your interpretation.
Ooh, interesting question, just to move you on a bit.
Okay.
What do you think it's like to be a Muslim living in France? Like on a day-to-day level? And I know like there's different regions in France. So
no, but I think it is getting more difficult. And I think especially if you have children, it makes you worried about what you would say. You'd be sort of public about it. Well, it makes me worry if I share certain viewpoints with my children, they repeat it at school. Are we then going to be viewed as like they're backwards they're extremists?
Or they're extremists?
Because like there was in the news article recently about there was some Muslim kids playing at school, just playing, and it was thought by an assistant that they were praying.
Oh, right.
And this was a massive thing. No, they were sent home.
Oh.
And it was like a big thing, and they said this is no place because in France it's like so there's no religion in schools.
Yes. Oh, you better explain that.
So religion and state are completely divided in France, and that means you shouldn't have any religious sign or kind of behaviour within.
No, they're very strict about it.
Within state buildings, so schools, town halls, government, anything like that.
Like you wouldn't hear, for instance, a French president wouldn't refer to God.
Oh, definitely not. That would be people wouldn't vote for him. You can't.
Other countries,
their personal belief should have nothing to do with anything like that.
Because I think people often think England's like that, and then I have to explain, like, no, you don't understand it. At what point?
No, but then I know in England, I know sometimes there's a room for children to go pray in, no matter what the religion. And in France, that would not exist.
And especially at airports and stuff, there's prayer rooms.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's more state things.
Yeah.
And I remember that was a big deal, and I remember thinking, that's actually quite sad because.
Yes, I think.
Especially because they start school so young, they start school when they're 3.
I think, like, originally, though, when I first heard about it, like, as someone I learned a lot of French culture because I have to learn the language. I always thought it was a good thing because in my head I was like, well, everyone's equal. No religion's favoured, which kind of is good. But then when you're like, oh, no, it just means there's no place for religion in many of the things they do. It's not actually great.
But I think, like, for me, I just felt like as soon as it's about Islam in France, there is this overreaction that's not proportional to what actually. Because even if they had been praying, why would that make them be sent home?
Yeah,
because they were primary school kids. They're just whatever. Even if they were praying, it would be kind of playing.
But I don't think that matters. You should be able to pray any way you want anyway. Which once again, I'd be like, it's a free country, but maybe it isn't. So we'll discuss it.
It just made me weird because we. It's just you don't know what your kids are going to because they see us pray at home, and when they start school they're only 3. Might be quite natural to
think, oh, well, why am I not doing that here?
Or play doing that even like because you play it being a mummy or daddy, you play it doing what you do at home, so
that makes sense.
Yeah, or then I think like if when they hear me moaning about the world, and then I think, well, if they said that at school, would they think that's an extremist view?
What would they see that as?
For me, it wouldn't. It would be like, for example, I think that for Israel-Palestine there should be a 2-state solution.
Yeah.
But I don't know at what point the sensitivity is.
Mm-hmm. And who heard it, really.
And so sometimes I'll say something and then I'll say afterwards, this isn't for public sharing.
This is a family
discussion.
Yeah.
But I think it's getting harder because there's this kind of. Well, it's hard in the sense you can't. So if I want to go swimming with the kids, I can't cover up how I'd like to because in France that's not allowed. But again, they would say, well, that's for everyone. But the problem is, we think of it as more of an obligation, whereas other people, it wouldn't be so much of an issue. So stuff like that. Sometimes I hear people say, like, you can't wear hijab in the street. You absolutely can wear hijab wherever you want to go.
Yeah.
But you can't cover in swimming pools for hygiene reasons, is the official thing.
And you're not allowed to cover your face, is that true?
Yeah, you absolutely. But that's fair. I mean, that's for me. That's fair enough. That's a security thing.
Because I know the French have been hot on that for years.
Yeah. But they said this. I've seen people that cover in the Kairos where we used to live in the 93.
Right.
And I was surprised because I thought, like, wouldn't you? But the thing is, people who actually cover their face are a minority in the minority.
Yeah.
That's so few people who actually really
would do that.
That for me, it's kind of a useless law because you're only kind of penalising a tiny percentage
of people who
then I think would be so strict with it that they would think, well, I'm just not going to leave the house.
Yeah, that's true.
So for me, it doesn't really. I get the point behind it, but I think people who were doing it for those reasons.
Well, I often also think people who were that extreme probably wouldn't move to a country that was considered liberal.
Yeah. Or you would be surprised. Like, when I was in the Kairos and I saw like these young girls that actually like had covered their faces, but the language they were using, I was like, I don't think you know the modesty thing I said earlier. I thought, I don't think they get that's part of it. I think there was just kind of like a
more of a cultural thing.
Yeah.
Are there any pluses of being in France, do you think, compared to a country like England? Or not?
In terms of religion, I don't think there's any pluses. I think...
Oh, yeah. No, I think there's lots of other pluses.
Yeah.
If anybody... We won't get down that, but healthcare and other stuff is much better.
I think there's lots of other things that are really good about France and that I enjoy about France. But I do think if... I'll say something quite dramatic. If it continued in this trajectory and continued to get worse, that... Honestly, sometimes I think I look at the newspaper and every day all I see is something Muslim, something Islam. It's like... It's kind of a...
This is going to go completely off topic. I'm so sorry, Elliot, when you look at this. I would say I think that is because newspapers are often, and people are going to hate this, made for old people. So I don't know many young people who read newspapers. And I think the target market, therefore, is getting older.
Yeah, mate. And you think they're more bigoted, old-fashioned views?
In the UK, reform voters are all people, I think, over 50. So, like... In that sense, you're going to get those kind of viewpoints. Yeah, so
it's really funny how
audience.
It's like it's the same for the RN here.
Yeah.
Is that a lot of their policies don't talk about work because most of their voters are retired.
Yeah, that's the same.
So I was like, it's interesting that that's the way it is. But I was going to say, if it continued in this trajectory in 5 years where I felt like it was getting smaller and smaller and smaller, like how we can practice, then I would think about leaving. Little tangent. I have another sister who also reverted. And who's also Muslim, and her kids are raised Muslim. And her eldest has started saying to her, like, could you not mention we're Muslim? Or could you... Because he's starting to find that it's not considered a good thing.
Yeah, it's sad, isn't it?
Whereas Nassim, he's very much in, like, the idea of... Well, most of his friends are Muslim, so he's very much like, he hasn't got that idea yet that some people think it's negative.
But he's also like a philosopher, though.
Yeah.
He sits down with me and he always goes, you know what? I think we could make one religion.
Tell you what, I don't know if he'll be Muslim for life, because I always say to him, well, when you get to a certain age where you feel like you're able to decide, then you can decide whatever. And he's very...
he makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, for him, it's very much like, especially because he's exposed to lots of religions.
And I think because he always knows we're Christian, so he's always very interested in being like, what makes us similar? Why are we're silly being different things? Like, he's very much being like, why are we
I don't understand why they're different when most of it's the same. And I think, I'll be really honest, he likes the idea of bacon.
Yeah, likes the
He
food
has
rules.
mentioned a lot about, like, I think I would like to try pork. And I said, well, when you're old enough and you think, if you want to try that, then that's... Yeah. You have to make your own decisions, don't you? But then he'll sway back and think, oh, no, I don't know. But I'll go, well... I say, when you get to university and you're, deciding, exploring...
I mean, it's far better to experiment doing that than something else.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, that's one of his big things, but he thinks he might be Christian because he couldn't pork.
But that was one of the things... What do you do at home that you think is, like, kind of like maybe a tradition or...
Well, so before we eat, we say Bismillah, but I mean, that's not that different from saying grace.
I mean, I can't say we do that at home, though.
Well, that's every time before you eat, not even like a full meal, you should say that. What do we do? When I enter the house, I'll say salam to the house.
That's nice.
Because you don't know what angels or spirits might be in the house.
In my head, I'm just like, it's very friendly.
So you should say salam as soon as you go into any house, even if it's empty. What else do we do? Well, we pray. I'll be honest, I don't often get 5 a day. That's hard when you've got to run in the household. In Ramadan, I definitely do 5 a day because I'm more conscious of it. But the rest of the time, I do my best. But I'm rare I get all 5 a day on time as well. On time, it's rare.
I think that's just setting yourself up for failure, giving yourself 5 times a day you've got to do it.
Well, the original story is that it was going to be a lot more, and eventually it was only 5.
I just don't know how people get anything done. I get if you live in a country where that's the culture, that's easy because everyone's doing it. But if you're moving to a culture where that's
what I liked in Morocco, everything stops.
Yes,
so for those 10 minutes. So it's not really a burden, whereas in other countries...
Yeah, it'd be hard to go, excuse me.
Especially in my job, I can't be like, excuse me, class of children, while I go pray.
I'll go off for a sec.
Yeah, we can't really do that.
Yeah.
We fast in Ramadan, but I mean, the rest of the time we kind of live this. We have to give to charity, though. That's a different thing. You have to calculate how much you earn a year and give the appropriate percentage to charity. Other than that, we live very normal lives, I would say. I'd say
you're quite modern in that... Modern.
Progressive?
Yeah, like you guys celebrate Christmas and stuff.
Yes, yeah, we do, yeah. But for me, that's because that's cultural. Some Muslims would totally be against that because they would say that's like you're practicing another religion.
But there was a TikTok that made me laugh. There was somebody doing like jingle bells, but it was like a Muslim version, yeah. Because I was saying the amount of Muslims that now celebrate Christmas. But I admit, a lot of Christmas isn't really Christian, is it? Let's be honest.
For me, it's kind of... Well, I wouldn't really mind if it was just a Christian... I mean, my kids have been to church before. Because I'm culturally English, I still celebrate English cultural things. I think it makes sense if you weren't raised with that.
Yeah,
and you're never going to miss it. But for me, the children are in France, and we're culturally in France that celebrates Easter and Christmas, so we should celebrate it as well. Yeah. Especially if, you don't want your child to be the only one that everyone comes back and says, what do you get for Christmas? And nothing, we don't...
Well, really, you just get extra presents, because you get your Eid gifts.
Yeah.
And you get your Christmas
Really, this
gifts.
is why we're broke.
So, he's like, what was he showing me? He's like, was showing me a board game, and he was going, I got this for Eid. And I was like, oh, great.
Yeah. He got a few things for Eid.
Yeah, so in his head it's just like,
Nothing got an electric scooter. I can't keep forking that every couple of months. Eid, Christmas,
so it's,
birthday.
I think they decided it's a great opportunity for more gifts.
Yeah. It's more of a hassle when you're eating out because you need things to be killed. We can actually eat kosher as well. Yeah. Halal or kosher. Either or fish or vegetarian. But nowadays, actually, there's quite a lot of vegetarian options for most things.
Yeah. I was going to say, you also all, I don't know if this is a Muslim thing, take your shoes off.
Oh, no, it is a Muslim thing. Yes.
Because I notice a lot, we do, but I notice in a lot of English homes they don't. So our house we do, that's purely a cleanliness thing, so we don't march mud everywhere.
And we're very aware, because you... praying in certain places on the floor, so it should be clean. Like, obviously, you still have your prayer mat, but it's the idea that the house itself is clean.
But it's like as soon as we come into the house, there's like an area for shoes.
I've never met a French person that wears shoes in the house, though.
No, it's true.
So,
well, I think it's becoming less common in England. I'm just aware now when I meet people who keep their shoes on, and I was like, oh, interesting.
Yeah, and it's really funny because when we take the kids to a hotel, when we go in the hotel, sometimes they start taking their shoes off because they're so like, when you've entered somewhere, you take your shoes off. And I'm like, no, not here. The floors are dirty.
Yes,
wait till we get further in.
Yeah.
Shoes off.
Do you think younger generations of Muslims in Europe are shaping a kind of different kind of identity to? Well, I mean, they obviously will be slightly, but.
Yeah, but I think it depends on the country.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Because I think sometimes the problem in France is they feel so restricted that they start to be more traditional. Like, it's almost like it becomes a bigger part of their identity because it's so repressed.
Also, if you're told you're not allowed to do something, it almost makes you go, well, I'm going to do it even more.
Or they think it's... Whereas I think actually, when I see in the UK, it's kind of the opposite, where it's more... No, I think in some areas in France, it's kind of getting more liberal in certain areas. But definitely in the UK, because when I speak to UK Muslims, there's definitely like a lot more, especially to do with like gay marriage in the UK.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Way more. In France, I haven't heard of that as much, but in the UK, it's definitely more of a push between certain...
I think I even saw, I don't quote me, there was like a dating thing for like gay Muslims.
So, I mean, that's how kind of progressive it is in the UK. Not in all areas, but it's definitely leaning more. I think in France, I haven't felt that yet, but I feel like there's more of... I certainly meet a lot more French Muslims that drink alcohol, for example.
Yeah.
But don't eat pork, which I always think is a bit of an odd.
They're like, oh, but we don't eat
pork, but alcohol. But I think in general, it's moving more in the world. I would say it's becoming slightly more progressive, just because there's younger people and there's a lot more people converting, which brings people with different life experience.
Yeah. Do you think it's also because Islam is a almost newer religion, so it's had less
younger,
time to be
I agree.
corrupted as such, you know, like changed and adapted. Yeah. Whereas now, once it maybe hits a certain age, it'll become almost just more cultural.
Yes,
and then it gets more.
I agree. I think, especially kind of around Ramadan and Eid, part of it now I think is.
Well, it's like I was impressed. Next has like Eid pajamas, like Christmas pajamas.
Yeah,
so
I think it's becoming. Well, there's now a commercial side to being a Muslim, isn't there?
But it made me laugh because I was like, they're doing exactly what they've done to Christmas. Like, let's make it into like a money maker.
Well, as I was explained to me, when he was young, they didn't even get gifts for Eid. It was just like new clothes or something. And then it's kind of over the years been added to. So it's become like a Christmas in a way. So it's very difficult. For me, it depends very much on the politics of the world in what direction it's going to go.
Yeah.
But I think the one thing we can say is it's kind of growing as a religion, which I would imagine meant that it would progress as well and get a bit more progressive.
Yeah, true. I also think this is my endless optimism, but I think generally when most young people are surveyed, they are much more liberal. So I feel like it's
what I would be interested in is to work out how, because for me a big difference between the current, like, I was going to say the Islamic Church, but like compared to like the Church of England and like Islam in England, the amount of young people.
Oh yeah.
For me,
much more young people.
Yeah, and I would like to, I was trying to think the other day, I wonder why that is.
It's true. I don't know, it's a good point, because one point...
it's not like... Because if it was, for example, more kind of less strict than Christianity, you could say, oh, well, I understand, because young people, they don't want you know, rules governing their lives. They don't want too much structure. Whereas it's really not the case.
No, it's true. And I sometimes think, is it because in our society we consider Christianity like an old person's religion, and therefore maybe it's just not considered young?
Yeah, I was just thinking.
Or is it purely statistical that maybe if you're Muslim you will have more children than maybe Christian would?
Yeah, maybe. But then you'd think Christians would be having more than the average non-believer.
I think that is true. Like most Christian families I know, have more. But yeah, I don't know.
Well, I was thinking, is it that for us, culture and religion is so linked that in order to
preserve that part of you,
are religious?
No, it's an interesting question.
I just wonder, it's just something I was wondering the other day, because I was thinking, I know a lot of churches are trying to do this thing where they encourage young people, and I thought, I wonder...
Yes, what it is.
What it is that's not appealing.
And I do know, like, me and Lily have been trying to visit this mosque for ages, I'll be honest. They're as bad as the church are trying to organise things.
Oh, that doesn't shock me at all.
The imam was always like, oh yeah, we can't do this day. Oh no, I actually can't do that day. I'm so sorry. And so now I need to reschedule.
Yeah, but the poor imam probably has someone like, we're getting married, like, that day, and shut up.
No, he seems very nice though.
But you know what it's like when you...
But it made me laugh. Because I was like, well, that seems the same.
Yeah.
But they have like loads of Islamic classes for your children, but like throughout the week, which surprised me.
Yeah.
Is that quite commonplace?
Yeah. But because it's... Oh, this might be different. So it's your job not just to educate your own children in Islam. It's quite dramatic vision of after death. There's the idea that you have to... Not that you have to make people convert or something like this, but your life has to set as an example to other people about what the religion is. And it says there will be people in the hellfire who will say to you, "Why didn't you tell me?"
Oh, that's sad, isn't
And
it?
it puts a kind of pressure
On you,
so
yeah.
that it says, even if you're not actively going, "Oh, do you want to learn about Islam?" You should be living the religion to such an extent that anyone in your entourage
could see the way
you live and admire it and think, "I would like that." So it's a big part of your religion that you should be educating your children, not just in Islam, in education in general. They should be well educated.
Is it true? I think this is. I've got another question that I'm just curious about. So, the Christians and Jews are known as people of the book by Muslims.
Yes.
So, would they consider us going to heaven?
Yes.
See, they're quite inclusive, aren't they? Really?
Yeah. So, not all of you.
Oh, not all of us.
Most of you.
Okay. How do you know which ones?
We don't know.
Oh, I see.
But
well, I guess nobody knows, to be honest.
Christians and Jews who are true believers and truly submit to God will go to heaven.
Yeah. Well, so that's quite... I know it's still not like everybody, but it's compared to...
And it annoys me because this is in the Quran. This is not disputable that they say...
Yes.
Jews and Christians, for people of the book that are true believers, will go to heaven. But I know some Muslims would say, no, that's not true, because no Christians nowadays properly submit to God, would be their viewpoint, or no Jews properly submit to God. And I'm like, there's absolutely no way of you knowing, but in our book, it says, no, if you are people of the book and you are properly following your faith and submitting yourself to God's will, then you, as Muslims, will be granted heaven.
I just always thought, because I know a lot of Christians, they have a lot of, I'm not going to say all, but they have the view like, well, if you don't believe Jesus is God, that's it. And I'm always like, well, that seems very cutthroat. To be like, you could have lived your life fantastically.
I don't like anything, because we have this a lot in Islam where, well, we actually get told off for this a lot, because in the Quran it says you cannot say who and who will not go to heaven. That is not your... But a lot of people will say, oh, people who commit suicide, people who do this, people who do that. And it actually says, in Islam, it's if you repented on your deathbed, you could go to heaven.
Well, that's,
So it's really, you have absolutely no idea who could go and who could not.
Are there aspects of Muslim culture that surprised you once you became part of the community? The fact that people can come around for food within minutes who haven't been invited.
Yes.
And I don't know if this is a Western thing.
With no prior information.
Or warning.
Yes, I tell you what, that is difficult. That is a hardship, which I bear. But that's not every day. It's normally on a Friday, if I've been at the mosque, and I'll think... and he will often send me a message, but it's like as they're walking home.
Yeah, and it's not that far.
And you've seen the mosque, not far. We're on our way back. Oh, by the way, so-and-so and so-and-so are coming to eat with us. And I'm just like...
What also entertains me, your son Nassim, I think he's taken this value, because he also invites lots of his friends round.
Yeah, he does. The same idea, with no forewarning.
No. And it's just like...
We'll be walking back from school, and he'll say, oh, by the way, Selman and Aweb are coming over... and they're going to have snack with us. And I'll be like, okay. Or I'll be like, I'll message their parents.
No, we often laugh because often in pictures, it's Becky and all her children. All
I often feel like the Pied Piper.
But I'm saying clearly he's taken that, like he's seen what Ayub does, and he's like, everyone's welcome.
Or I think that's as well, that's the sense of community with other Muslims.
Yeah.
It's just, right. He has taken that to heart that we just invite people a lot.
I've noticed.
Just at the drop of a hat. Is there anything we'd like to finish on?
And I'm trying to see if there's any particularly good questions.